Hi, I'm Kelly with citruscycles.ca. I'm here with Raleigh's Detour IE. It is an e-bike powered by the new Shimano Steps E6100, which is a higher torque motor than the previous E6000. It's great having a mid-drive like that. And this bike is an incredible value for using such a well-known drive unit and good quality components. It is available in the white that you see here, and this is what Raleigh calls the step-through frame. You can see the crossbar is a little bit lower there. I'd call this maybe a mixedy or a low step. It's available in this frame configuration in black and in white and in 3 different sizes, small, medium, large. And you can also get it with a higher crossbar, and that's available in 2 sizes and in black. You can find all the detailed specs of the bike, including current pricing. You can order online. You can find our contact information to reach out to us with any questions you have. Or you can also schedule an appointment to come try it here in beautiful Ladysmith on Vancouver Island. All of that information is on our website at citruscycles.ca. So in this video, I'm going to take you through all the details of the bike. I'll take you on a ride test as well. I'm going to do the quick highlights right now, and then you can skip over the ride test if you wish, or stick with me for the in-depth review. So we've got a rigid fork that helps to keep the price down. Again, this is an incredible value for a bike that uses the Shimano Steps E6100. They've done a great job of finding a way to get the price to a lower point, but still using a really good drive unit. So they've done that partly by using a rigid fork, which helps keeps the weight down. We've got Schwalbe Big Apple tires. It's a balloon tire, so that helps to smooth out the ride. We've got the Shimano 418 watt-hour battery, so Shimano does have a higher capacity battery. Again, to get to that price point, they've gone with a lower capacity battery, but given that it's such a light bike, it actually has a really good range. We've got a full-length chain guard on here. We have a 9-speed Shimano Serra 34-tooth cassette on the back. Really sturdy rack. We've got fenders that are built in, a nice comfortable seat, ergonomic grips, swept back handlebars, and of course a kickstand at the back there. We've got a quick release on the front and the rear, and hydraulic disc brakes. So all in all, good quality, the type of components that you'd be looking for, and a lot of comfort in this bike. So now let me get into the actual specific details. Let's go up here to the Shimano system. We've got this Shimano Display here. It is removable. There's a little tab at the bottom here. You can just push that and slide it off. This is the newer Shimano Display. It's got the power button right on the display here. We have a menu button. We have a button for the lights. And again, the bike doesn't come with lights. So Raleigh, to get this bike to the price that it is, and again, the pricing is available on our website at citruscycles.ca, they had to make some choices. And so they said, yeah, let's do a really good drive system, the Shimano Steps E6100, but we'll save a little bit of money by not putting lights on. So, of course, you could put USB rechargeable lights. If you're just riding this in the day and you just want to be seen, you could put some flashing lights on or something like that. But if you're riding at night, you could again go with USB rechargeable, but we also have lights that we can wire in. We can mount on the stem here and wire into the main battery, so you're not worrying about having to recharge your lights, which can be quite handy. And so if you do that option, then there is a light button on there. Nice big display, really easy to use. You can see you've got the time up here, current battery level, we have the current speed, the assistance. If this bike had electronic shifting, which it doesn't, you'd have that choice of manual or automatic here, but it'll always stay manual there. And down here we have trip information, so time. And if I just press the menu button on the display, or when you're riding, obviously you're going to want to do it on the remote over here. So we have a very ergonomic up and down to change the assistance level. So there you can see we're off right now. Eco is the lowest level of assistance, gives you tremendous range and a little bit of help. Normal is probably what you're going to ride on most of the time, and for the hills or you want to go fast, you can put it up to high. So 3 levels plus off. And again, that's all controlled on the remote here while you're riding. While you're riding, if you press that middle button on the display or on the remote, that'll cycle through the information on the bottom of the display here. So you can see average speed, maximum speed, your cadence, which is really interesting, the distance that you've gone on the trip so far, the odometer, that is the distance on the bike, which of course can't be reset, and range. Now currently it's showing us the range with the battery being, I think it was about 3/4 on Eco, as being 106 kilometers. That's pretty incredible. This is really interesting. On this screen here, you can actually see the range for each level of assistance. So if you're going on a long ride and you're wondering, am I going to make it back on normal or could I ride on high? You can look at all of that all at once there. Also, our trip time is there and back to our average speed. So we've got lots of information available there. All of that can be reset by going into the menu system. You press and hold the plus and the minus at the same time. It's going to bring you to the menu. You can go to clear and we can reset our trip distance. There we go. We can adjust the clock, backlight, brightness. We can I immediately turn off the beep on any of the Shimano Steps bikes that we get in. It drives me crazy, but if you enjoy beeping every time you press the button, it's not a horn, by the way, it's just a beep to tell you that yes, you've pressed the button. But really, these buttons are very tactile. They have a lot of feedback. So you know you're going to press the button. It doesn't need to beep at you to tell you. You can change the unit, the language, the font color, and the rest of the stuff doesn't really apply. We'll exit back to our main menu there. So that's the display and the control for the Shimano Steps. Down here obviously is the motor. It's actually very compact, light. Again, contributes to this bike being quite light, which is nice. We've got a full-size chain ring up front here with the chain guard and a chain guide, so it's very unlikely that your chain is going to fall off, which is nice. This new E6100 motor, it's a big step up actually from the previous E6000, which a lot of bikes in this price range are still using. So just watch, the E6000 and the E6100 are actually very different. This is 20% more torque than the E6000. That makes a big difference for hills especially. So it's really nice having that extra power. And it's a little bit lighter and a little bit less resistance when you're pedaling it with the assistance off. And I really like the way Raleigh kind of tipped it up here, give you a little bit more clearance down there. It's a really nice integration. Raleigh did choose the 418 watt-hour battery rather than the newer 500 watt-hour. Again, that's a price thing that helps them to get to the bike to that price. The disadvantage, now this battery, it's actually, it's a nice choice because when you unlock it here with the key, it tips out of the frame like that. So that allows them to get this top tube nice and low here. We do have mounting points that you could use for a water bottle. They've put it high enough up that it's not going to interfere with getting on and off here, which is nice. Or you could put a lock there as well. One thing I don't love about what Shimano did with this battery is if you charge it on the bike, there's a small little charging port right there, which is great. But if you take the battery off and charge it, the charging port is actually much bigger. And so you actually have a dongle, a little attachment that you put on the charger in order to charge the battery off the bike. So if you choose to charge the battery off the bike, make sure you don't lose that dongle. We've got some decent pedals here with a little bit of rubber and some grips on to try to keep your foot from sliding in the rain. If you ride a lot in the rain, you might want to change those to something with pins, but these are actually pretty good pedals. We do have reflectors there as well, and we have the reflective sidewalls in the tires to also keep you safe, and reflectors on the spokes, a reflector on the back, and a reflector on the front. But again, if you can put some lights on, that would be great. So these tires are the Schwalbe Big Apple. They have a good degree of puncture resistance, the Schwalbe K-Guard 3, so the Kevlar lining level 3. It is a balloon tire, so what that means is we can put a high volume of air in here at low pressure, and that ensures that the tire can actually deform a little bit over bumps and really absorb a lot of the bumps and vibrations from the road. And I do notice that in the ride test that it actually does, those tires really do help smooth out the ride. Of course, we've got a rigid seat post in here, so you may want to consider perhaps a suspension seat post, since we do have that rigid fork, that the tire is going to do a good job of absorbing as much as it can, but when you get into really rough sections, a suspension seat post can go a long way. Or you could change out the seat to something with some springs and bumpers in there. It is quite a comfortable seat. It is a kind of a cruising seat, so you can see it is quite wide, and it's got a little bit of a rise at the back here, which is actually great on an e-bike, because generally on an e-bike, when you're climbing hills, you're not going to stand on the pedals, you're just going to stay seated, and so that little bit of a rise helps you from sliding out the back. While we're back here, I should point out this is a really heavy-duty rack here, very thick tubing, nice and wide. I don't see that they've put a capacity on the rack, but certainly you can put a lot of weight on there. You can put bags on the side or trunk bags up front there as well. And coming up to the front here, we do have these nice ergonomic grips. They aren't locking, so you could, with enough force, kind of twist them. So if that were important to you, again, these are little things that again help them to achieve that price point, and you could change, so we could put ergonomic or locking grips on there. We do have the Serra drivetrain here, so you can see you actually can see your gear, which is great. The bars are swept back. We've got a rise on the stem here. So you can see it goes up here, and then the bars sweep back, so that puts you in a really very comfortable upright riding position. With the brakes, we do have the Tektro. They're a 160mm rotor, which on a bike like this is sufficient for stopping. You're not going to be going mountain biking with this bike. Certainly you can do light trails with it, no problem. And those brakes are hydraulic, so that means you're not relying on the strength of your own hands to stop the bike. There's actually hydraulic fluid in there, similar to your car, and so you could, stop this bike with just 1 or 2 fingers going down the steepest hill, and it'll stop. It's not requiring the strength of your hands. It also means that they're self-adjusting. The cable isn't going to stretch, so they're generally going to be less maintenance and a little bit more reliable, which is nice to have. I always recommend hydraulic brakes when you can do that. Another way that Raleigh, managed to get the price down, they've used a Shimano Serra 9-speed, which is, a nice upgrade from an 8-speed. It is a 34-tooth cassette. I probably will forget that in the ride test video and call it something else. I apologize for that. It is a 34-tooth cassette. So compared to some bikes that, have now 40 teeth, it could be considered a smaller gear ratio than, say, some other bikes, but it's also, a little bit bigger than some of the other bikes that maybe have a 30 or 28 tooth. And basically what that tells you is the more teeth you have, the bigger the cassette, the easier it is to spin faster to climb hills. So if you're planning on climbing a lot of really steep hills, well, at some point it might be worth putting a little bit of a larger cassette on the back here to let you spin faster to be able to get up really steep hills. Certainly the motor is going to help you with that, and it's lots of torque, especially on a lightweight bike like this, but you may consider upgrading that cassette. The Shimano Serra is kind of more of an entry level. Again, that's how they keep the price down. It's still very functional. It works well. A little bit clunky, say, compared to Dior, but again, that's one of the choices that Raleigh made to get the bike to this price range. And that's a reasonable choice, because you can't change the motor to something more powerful, but we can change the cassette. We've got good hydraulic brakes, so that's good to see. A lot of comfort with the bike. We've got the fenders, so yeah, we'd want to maybe add some lights, maybe eventually if you're climbing really steep hills, change the cassette, but otherwise we've got a really great value with good quality name brand components. There's nothing on here that you go, oh boy, that's I'm not sure where they got that from. So it's nice to see that they've made those kind of choices to get it to that price point. So I'm going to take you on a ride test, but if you have more questions, you want to come try it yourself, head over to our website at citracycles.ca. Again, this is the Raleigh Detour IE with the lower step, what Raleigh calls the step through. Before we head out on the ride test, I should mention that Raleigh isn't paying me for this video review. I don't get any sort of compensation or consideration from them for that, so I'm going to be honest about reviews. It's all of our reviews. I'm doing them because, well, I obviously make a living and support my family by selling e-bikes, and what's important to me is that you get the best e-bike for your needs. So if this Detour isn't what you need, we've got lots of others. You can find the information for them on our website, and you can always be sure that I'm going to tell you, the things that I do like and don't like about the bike, because I'm not getting compensated for the videos. So the Detour definitely has a really upright riding position. You've got the nice sweep on the handlebars here to bring you a little bit backwards from the handlebars and more upright, which is nice for bike that maybe you'd use for commuting or cruising, riding around. It gets you in a comfortable position and helps you to see and be seen, which is great. I'm on normal right now. I just realized I'm already at 30 kilometers an hour, and I'm really not pushing that hard or having to work that hard. That's one of the advantages of a bike with a rigid fork like this. It's very light and very efficient. So you'll also notice that compared to other bikes, this one also gets a really good range. But yeah, pretty easy to get up to that 32 kilometer an hour cutoff speed there. easy getting started after a stop sign. With the Shimano step system, you do get the power delivery immediately. So all I have to do was put torque on the pedals, a little pressure on them, and I get the assistance right away. I don't actually have to get the crank arms moving. And that's where a lot of people think, oh, you know, I really want to have a throttle on my bike. And really the only reason you'd need a throttle is if you don't want to pedal at all. So as long as you're okay with pedaling, even if it's just lightly, you know, I'm going to put it up onto high right now for this bit of a hill here, and I'm really not having to put that much effort into it. As long as I can keep those pedals turning, it's providing a lot of power, no problems getting up this hill. So sometimes people think, you know, I need a throttle to get started, but with the Shimano system being so responsive, it starts as soon as you put pressure on the pedals. And of course, sometimes people think, oh, I needed something to get across the intersection quickly. But again, throttle on any bike doesn't actually give you more power than the bike's capable of. So as long as you put the bike on high, turn the crank arms, you're going to get the full power. All right, so far really comfortable ride. We've got the comfortable riding position. I'm liking these ergonomic grips. And on the pavement I've been on so far, these balloon tires have been quite effective. Now I'm curious, I'm going to get into some broken pavement up ahead, some gravel, some potholes. And so without the suspension fork, it might be a little bit rougher, but certainly running these balloon tires at a lower pressure can help. So far, it's working out quite well. Felt that bump. If it were me, you know, with this bike, I'd definitely put a suspension seat post on. You know, a rigid frame bike, the suspension seat post can go a long way to really smoothing out a rough ride. But these tires are definitely effective. And so for this kind of terrain, occasional usage, it works out quite well. If you were riding rougher terrain or this kind of thing very, very frequently, then it's worth considering a bike with the suspension fork, just to make it a little bit smoother. But if you don't mind going a little bit slower or avoiding some of the potholes, we're on gravel now. Let me just check the brakes here. So no problem stopping there. I didn't actually end up skidding out or anything, even though I'm on gravel. I'll do that again. Very good. There's not as much modulation, say, as you know, some of the higher end Shimano brakes, but the Tetra brakes are still very efficient. And you know, we're not going mountain biking with this, so we don't need tons of modulation. We just need to be able to stop when you want to stop, and that they're going to do that. So I'm going to do some swerving here on the gravel. These tires, the Raleigh tires, do really well on gravel actually. You know, it's a wider tread pattern, which is good. We do a little bit of a trail here, some soft gravel. That's where, you know, these 2-inch wide tires are really handy when you get into loose gravel like that. It's going to provide you a little bit more flotation so you're not digging in as much. You know, even light trails like this work really well on this bike. Yeah, now this isn't particularly rooty or rocky or bumpy, but there's a few in there, and you know, it works quite well. Again, the tires on grass like this work well. Here I'm feeling, you know, the ground is uneven. I'm feeling a little bit of those vibrations. And like I said, a suspension seat post would definitely go a long way to smoothing that out. Got a couple of hills ahead. I've got a smaller hill that we'll climb. So I'm going to put it on high soon. And then I've got a very steep hill. I'll go through a tunnel first, and I'm hoping that we won't lose the GPS signal in the tunnel. I'm hoping the GPS will be accurate with showing you the gradient in the bottom right corner on the hills, and that the GPS doesn't actually calculate my speed correctly when I'm climbing a hill, because it's not taking into account the fact that I'm going up a hill. It's calculating the speed as if I were just going flat. So you'll notice there'll be some discrepancy between what I, you know, say and what's shown on the screen, but hopefully the gradient is there. So I am wondering, so this hill, no problem. I'm in my second gear, 15 kilometers an hour, not having to work at it particularly hard at all. So that's good. I'm a little bit concerned about this next hill. It is very, very steep, and really it is steep. I say that, but it is steep, and it's probably steeper than most hills that you would encounter on a bike like this. Again, you're not going mountain biking with it. Light trails are fine. Oh, I need to put a bell on. That'd be something I'd add, just to alert people that I'm coming through the tunnel here. Another thing I would add is lights. You know, as I enter the tunnel here, I'm reminded that I don't have front or rear lights. That's a way that Raleigh brings the price down, but of course we could wire in lights, or you could use USB rechargeable lights. Yeah, so this hill is likely, the one coming up is likely steeper than most hills you're going to encounter in an urban environment. But I'm not worried about the motor making it up the hill. I know it will. What I'm concerned about is the gearing. So it's a fairly limited cassette on the back in comparison to some of the other bikes that we have. So I'm gonna get ready for the hill here, get it into my easiest gear there. I've got it on high, and here we go, about 12 kilometers an hour. And it's definitely getting harder to pedal. Like, I can make it, but I am having to pedal harder. If I had, you know, a couple more teeth on that cassette, it'd be a lot easier. And that is something, you know, we could look into changing for you, is putting a wider gear ratio there. Now it's okay. So just that little section there where I really had to, didn't have to pedal really hard. When my pedaling, you can probably tell it's slower right now, right? And I'd like to spin a little bit quicker, but the only way I can spin quicker is if I have a little bit of a larger cassette, a larger chainring on the back there. But you know, you're not likely to encounter a hill like that, and I did make it up. Just my pedaling was a little bit slower and a little bit harder than I would have liked, but actually it was better than I thought. I thought it'd be a real struggle and I'd be wobbling back and forth and really pushing hard to make it up there, because you know, I think this is a 32 tooth cassette. If we could go up to 34, 36, it would help, but it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, so that's good. I'm going to climb another hill. It's a long hill, probably not as steep. You can hear with the Shimano Serra Drivetrain here, you know, the shifting is no problem. It's shifting very reliably, but it's a little bit clunkier, it's a little bit noisier, and that's you know, normal, what you would expect in a drivetrain in this kind of price range. So it's functional, works just fine, but it's not, say, as smooth as, say, a Shimano Dior. Okay, I'm in a steep section of the hill here again, slowing down to about 10 kilometers an hour. Making it up no problem, but again, I'm spinning a little bit slower than perhaps I would like, working at it a little bit harder. And again, I don't think it's a limitation of the motor, I think it's just the gearing there. If I could spin a little bit quicker. And again, this is very steep. A little bit of a less steep section now, and I'm able to get my leg spinning a little bit quicker, get my speed up, and not have to work at it as hard. So unless you have hills steeper and longer than that, that was relatively steep and long, then you should be fine on this bike. And I think part of why it's doing so well despite the limited range is it is a light bike, and sorry, by limited range I'm referring to the gearing ratio, not the battery life. Battery life on this is really impressive. So I'm going to do some hills here, and I don't have any concerns about the brakes. They seem to be quite reliable, which is good. Really nice having hydraulic brakes, of course. It's definitely something that you want to have. Yeah, accelerating out of an intersection there on high, whew, really fast. Yeah, no problem there at all. Lots of get up and go on the high setting. I'll put it back down to normal. Get down some hills here. All right, so these brakes, quite effective. Again, you're not going to go mountain biking, so I wouldn't recommend screaming down that hill trying to slam on the brakes at the very end, because it is going to take a little bit longer than on a bike with higher end brakes. But of course, that's not what this bike is for. On all of this kind of pavement here is actually very smooth. If you're mostly riding on stuff like this, then you could probably even forego a suspension seat post, because these tires are doing a really great job of being part of my suspension. But if you're going on rougher stuff like I did earlier in the video, definitely a suspension seat post can help. The road is a little bit slippery today. We had some rain this morning, so it's again a nice opportunity to test out the handling of the tires, and they're doing really well. I like having the reflective sidewall in there as well. Keep me safer at night. You would want to throw some lights on the bike. There are reflectors, but lights are definitely a better option if you can do that. So hopefully I've given you a good idea of the bike. I'm having a lot of fun riding it. It's nice and light, very manageable. You know, sometimes bikes can feel kind of clunky or difficult to control, and this is really fun. It feels really manageable. It's nice and quick when you need it to be. Climb the hills. So if you want more information on the bike, you'd like to order one on our website or schedule an appointment to come try it in our store here in Ladysmith, you can head over to our website at citruscycles.ca.